Bitcoin has started the second half of the year in resurgent form. Has it? Has it? Oh, okay. Rebounding 12% after falling below $6,000 last week. Arjun joins us on set. Well, I'm slightly skeptical. Well, where's it come from? Look at that. What was it? $20,000?
Yeah, it's about 70% off.
So all those lunatics who were desperate to buy it and told us we were idiots at 15,000, 16,000, 17,000, presumably they are mortgaging the house on it and just throwing everything they've got at it, because it was never about momentum. It was all about this being the best product ever.
Well, Steve, we take your point. Absolutely, it was all about momentum at that point. When you looked at what was happening last year in the Bitcoin market, there was huge optimism that this was going to be approved by the regulators, that there were going to be all sorts of financial products like ETFs and all sorts coming onto the market for institutional investors to buy. That actually hasn't happened. What you saw was some tepid, actually, interest in the futures that came to market towards the end of the year, and actually not huge interest from the wider investing community in this product.
Let's break this down a little bit. Why, when this product, every time I see a headline, it's going to have greater regulatory scrutiny, it sells off? I would have thought that any investor who invests in bonds, equities, currencies, ETFs, derivatives, you name it, actually likes the regulator having an oversight over a product. So do investors in Bitcoin want regulation or not?
I think the majority do. But there is a core, perhaps you could call them fanatical, who have been in this market before people even knew the word Bitcoin, who don't want regulation. There's a lot of, I'd say, philosophy around Bitcoin. The real advocates who were there from the start think this is something that should not be touched by governments. There should be no interference from governments or any kind of central authority. And when they hear the word regulation, when they hear regulators getting involved...
Are these people the same people who go on the dark web and trade drugs?
I mean, some are. No doubt.
I'm just chucking it out there.
Absolutely, there is some of that. But you have seen regulators try and clamp down on some of those sites as well. The FBI in the US, for example, closed a very famous one called Silk Road a few years back. But at the same time, I think there's a philosophical point here for many that actually regulation shouldn't touch this. But if there is to be a resurgence in price and interest in Bitcoin, there does have to be regulation. I think we've seen some of the regulators get involved in that. They've looked at some of the exchanges and said, well, we want to see how you're operating and a lot of your documentation about how official you are. And the FCA does want to get involved in the UK, the SEC in the US. I think some of these regulators are taking a very good view in it and saying, look, we like the idea of this technology. There could be use for it, but we need to do a lot more to see how it's working.
Arjun, don't forget there's many what you would typically call unsophisticated retail investors in the space, people who have never bought a stock or a bond, probably don't have a mortgage, so they've never had a mortgage product, have gone after Bitcoin because they've seen it rally. I'm curious about what this means now for the mood music of, say, even millennials who might fit into that category because they're a big investing space that has potential to get into the markets but have for some reason been attracted to Bitcoin. I think it's because it's been rallying. Back-to-back rallies suggest that you've got some upside and a way to make money. But of course, the reversal, what has that done to confidence, do you think, for people who've never really had any form of an investing portfolio?
Yeah, I think if people are looking at the Bitcoin space, if they're looking at cryptocurrency space as a whole, and they look at it and see what's happened from that near $20,000 price of Bitcoin and the huge crash, I think that there'd be no confidence investing in this. The volatility in it, if people are saying, well, this is some advocates of Bitcoin say this is the next digital gold, this is where it's going to be a store of value for the long term. But if you look at the volatility and how it's traded, I think it's really difficult. I think why you saw a lot of people get into it was the ease of it. It was so easy to download an app and then just buy some Bitcoin. And this was something virtual. It was something that seemed cool at the time, and that was going up. And that's why you saw that initial interest, that huge spike from a number of people. I mean, anecdotally, I've said this before, a lot of people I knew around my age were just downloading apps and buying things they'd never even heard of. And I was trying to talk to him and say, do you know what this is or what it does? No, but it was going up. And that was really the mentality that happened last year. And that of course, was very dangerous. No doubt lots of people lost some money there.
But you can imagine if a bank went down that pathway, the amount of fines that would be lobbed against that bank or that lender if they launched a product without any of the disclosures, like the pages and pages of documents that you have these days if you're offering a financial product that you have to sign. So it's quite a different ball game for the lenders versus, say, Bitcoin. Very,
very different, yes. And I think what we'll see this year potentially is some more regulators getting involved and potentially launching some new products. That seems to be the hope right now for many in the cryptocurrency markets, that actually we might see some ETFs come to market, but it's yet to be seen whether that could boost any institutional investor interest in the product too.
I mean, at the moment this feels a little bit like religion. You either believe or you don't believe.
Yeah.
And as I look at the web, the Winklevoss twins are still out there saying Bitcoin is gold. In fact, it's better than gold. It's better gold than gold. So the zealots are still telling people they should own this stuff. But it seems to me, back to Steve's point, that it's almost being strangled by regulatory neglect. And every time we talk to an official in government that has anything to do with financial markets and oversights, they yawn or they sigh when you ask them a question about Bitcoin and fold their arms defensively. And the system just doesn't want this alternative currency, it seems to me.
I think you've got to look at a country-by-country basis. There's been a few fintech and tech conferences I've travelled to this year, and we've spoken to certain countries and cities that have been, big advocates of this technology. You look at somewhere like Switzerland, which has its own little area called Crypto Valley, where there's a lot of blockchain startups there. The regulators there are very open to it. You look at perhaps Abu Dhabi and Dubai. Those are, again, places where they're looking at this in quite a positive way. So there are a few smaller countries that are looking at this and potentially looking to bring this into the regulatory fold, but actually, at the same time, some major countries are not interested for sure.
Is it the cryptocurrency or is it the DLT that they're actually excited about?
It's actually both. Most regulators are very interested in the DLT, the blockchain underlying technology of this, but there are a number of regulators that are actually involved in the cryptocurrency and happy to bring in some of these initial coin offerings and new ICOs, as they're known, into the regulatory fold and actually regulate some of this cryptocurrency trading and use of it as well.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.